Welcome to the Chronic Health Collective, where we empower you to transform every area of your life. We gathered the best coaches and experts in the world to bring you weekly insights that will elevate your physical, your mental, and your spiritual well-being. Whether you're looking to boost your energy, heal your relationships, or live a more productive, balanced life, we're here to guide you every step of the way. My name is Andy, and in this episode of the Chronic Health Collective, we have Sandra Olszowka Duron. She's a passionate autoimmune specialist who bridges the gap between traditional medicine and cutting-edge functional approaches to tackle autoimmune diseases head-on. With a focus on uncovering root causes, Sandra crafts personalized treatment plans that empower her patients to claim their health. Her expertise is deeply personal, and we're going to hear about that, having triumphed over her own battles with autoimmune conditions, including Hashimoto thyroiditis. She brings unmatched insight, compassion, and determination into every patient's journey. Sandra's mission is to help you optimize your health, regain your balance, and thrive beyond diagnosis. Hi, Sandra. We welcome you to the Chronic Health Collective show.
Hey, Andy. How are you? I'm so thrilled to be here, and it's lovely to see you and everyone.
That is so great. So, Sandra, why don't you tell us a little bit about your health journey and why you're so passionate with helping people with autoimmune conditions?
For sure, absolutely. And in essence, my journey started quite some time ago, and it really was a mixture of all these symptoms I was having, and I wasn't able to. It was impacting me daily in terms of zero energy level, and I'm someone who typically has an overabundance of energy, and it was just difficult to even make it through the day, and it was actually even difficult to wake up in the mornings. And even though I would have a great sleep the night before, everything was just so much more difficult, and pains and all these other symptoms that I was having. And so going to my primary care physician and, the odd test here, there, no real diagnoses coming up. And eventually things are getting pretty strong, impacting in a grand level my daily activities. And so finally I was diagnosed with an underactive thyroid. So I went on medication. Wasn't really helping all that much. I did my research. I love to read. I love to do research. And so I went back to my physician asking if I could have a test for antibodies, because there's underactive thyroid, but then there's an autoimmune component that some people can get called Hashimoto's thyroiditis. For sure, a mouthful, but it's important to have that distinction, because it really then lays a different path forward going for people. And sure enough, my antibodies came back to some sort of stratospheric level. So it was clear that I didn't just have underactive thyroid, but I had the autoimmune component. And so therein, I guess, really created the journey, so to speak, a journey that at times was circular, forward, backwards,
Right.
because sometimes I would make progress. Other times it would seem that I was actually going backwards. And so I was, really excited to really unravel all the components that people with Hashimoto's thyroiditis really need to address if they want to really get things under control.
That is amazing. And it's interesting because you mentioned you got diagnosed of an underactive thyroid initially, right?
Correct.
So can you explain to people what is the difference between Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and I'm just going to say Hashimoto's at this point because that is a mouthful.
Fair enough. You got it.
And how does it affect your thyroid gland and your body overall?
Absolutely. So there are, in essence, from the thyroid perspective, there's an overactive thyroid and an underactive thyroid, and they can present with some different symptoms. And so from the perspective of having the underactive, in terms of the types of symptoms I had, the hair here was was falling out, lots of fatigue. They talk about brain fog, and I'm sure at times that I was impacted by that, and that was really an intriguing time because I was in school, I was doing a lot of studying, and so it caused it created extra focus that I needed to give to that, because obviously when you're studying, it doesn't help if you're having difficulty studying.
Correct.
For sure.
So, but Hashimoto's is actually an autoimmune condition. So can you explain a little bit about how your immune system is actually confused, and it's is it actually attacking your thyroid?
100%. And that's indeed, in fact, what happens is that it does destroy the thyroid tissue. And that's something that you don't want, because the thyroid itself regulates so many metabolic and other processes within the body. And so to have the destruction of the thyroid really can create a ripple effect. So it's very important to get the autoimmune component, to get the inflammatory component under control, because the more inflammation that somebody has, the more destructive the nature of the condition can be. And so that creates a whole bunch of additional opportunities, really is how I look at that. Because once you really understand what is wrong, right? When you understand what is wrong, when you understand the symptoms and the why, you talked a little bit about going to the root cause. And so it's when you understand the why that you really can address it, and you can address it in a way that's supportive of the body, that helps heal and nourish the body, so that the symptoms can really become a lot less, or even disappear.
Correct. So for people that starts having an underactive thyroid, because you mentioned your thyroid could be underactive or overactive, and that's not necessarily an autoimmune condition. But when your thyroid is underactive and you get diagnosed with Hashimoto's, I hear there's another disease that gets commonly, mixed up with Hashimoto's for diagnosis, is Graves' disease. Can you tell us a little bit about the difference between Hashimoto's and Graves' disease?
Absolutely, Andy. Great point. And in fact, Graves' disease is actually the autoimmune component of an overactive thyroid.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
Absolutely. And so that's the key difference. So you can have a thyroid disorder that's not related to the autoimmune component, but you can also have the autoimmune aspect of it. And so Graves' disease is the overactive, so it overstimulates the thyroid, and then you can have the underactive one. And so Hashimoto's would be the underactive part.
So when you're talking about underactive and overactive, are there different symptoms between the two?
There are, and from that perspective, for people that have the overactive one, you'll find they're often quite, they can be thin. Sometimes you'll notice in the eyes that the eyes might be protruding a little bit.
Oh.
There can be, from a mood perspective, some irritability, things like that. From the underactive, the weight is actually the opposite. So you gain excessive weight, and the mood is more sluggish. Just as you would anticipate, just by the definition of underactive, it just means that things have really slowed down, and so they can be different, present differently from a symptomology perspective.
Correct. So when you're underactive, you tend to gain more weight, a little bit more sluggish. So you have a little bit more brain fog when it's underactive too, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you're overactive, you tend to be a little thinner with buggy eyes. Okay, that I haven't seen. But the interesting thing is, like, how do people know? Because what you're explaining is probably a big portion of the population. Like, how would people dive into figuring out if it's just underactive or overactive, or it's gone to the point where they actually is so underactive that becomes autoimmune, becomes Hashimoto's, or becomes overactive and becomes Graves'?
Superb point. And in essence, it comes down to, yes, there's the symptom perspective of it, but it's really a blood test. So it's really, easy peasy to figure it all out, because the antibodies will come back and they will reflect what exactly is going on and to what degree, because some people can have antibodies and they can be fairly low, which means, typically that the level of damage, the level of inflammation isn't as high, isn't as severe. Or you can have off the chart antibodies, which suggests that the level of damage going on is at a higher level.
Well, let me ask you this then, because we're talking about Hashimoto's, and I think Hashimoto's is probably more common than Graves' disease, correct? Because most of the people I talk to, most of the time, they do have underactive thyroid.
Absolutely, and it's so interesting because statistically, Andy, people have had thyroid problems.
Correct.
But the incidence of thyroid issues is really elevated. Like if you look at the trajectory of the data, it's really causes somebody to sort of step back and even question, why the high incidence. What are there environmental factors? Are there, psychological factors? Like what stressors are going on? What exposures are happening that really lead to that? Because I think that's a perfect point. Years ago, people didn't know much about these conditions, and you're right. Now it's like when you speak with people, it's so matter of fact. Oh yes, I have Hashimoto's. Well, I have Hashimoto's too, and oh well, they have Hashimoto's, and so it's like, And the thing with a lot of that is that people aren't getting relief. They're getting a diagnosis, but they're not really getting how to manage it. Or if they are getting how to manage it, it's really not taking care of the symptoms.
Got you. Well, it's interesting because it sounded like your doctor just diagnosed you with underactive thyroid. They didn't even do the test that you're talking about.
Not initially, no.
To actually diagnose you with Hashimoto's.
Right.
Which symptoms do you think people should not ignore when it gets from underactive thyroid to the point that it's getting worse to Hashimoto's?
Absolutely. And I think brilliant question. And I think the earlier, the better. When you're starting to see symptoms, bodies want to be healthy. We all want to be healthy, and our bodies work really hard to keep homeostasis and to, to heal. And so your symptoms are the body's way of letting you know that something is wrong. So ideally, it's not a matter of waiting. Well, I feel bad, and I feel bad, and I feel bad, but I'm just going to wait. The ideal is when you believe that something is off, don't let it sit. Just don't, because the earlier you can start addressing things, healing things, that's ideal. And again, the body always wants to heal. So I want to give people hope, because, a lot of people have suffered for decades, and they're told that there are no answers. They're, just learn to live with it, take your pill or whatever. And if this pill doesn't work, we'll just, keep upping the dose or try different ones. And I just want people to know that you don't have to settle for something that may not be working for you. And how you know it's not working for you is how you feel. Because if you don't wake up in the morning feeling energized and amazing and wanting to tackle the day, if that's not where you're at because of your thyroid, then that in itself is a huge message.
That's amazing, because like a lot of people can think, well, I'm just going to think more energy. But if your body's not listening, something is wrong. And it's so important to listen to your body, because it's always, like you said, that it's always giving you symptoms when something's not quite working right. So like you're talking about brain fog, low energy, weight gain. And, it's funny because obesity is a big thing now. And a lot of people may think that you need to exercise more or eat less, but it could be a condition of having Hashimoto's, right?
Absolutely. And that's the fallacy, because a lot of people with Hashimoto's, they're like, well, I'll just, cut my calories, I'll do this and I'll do that. But intrinsically, it's the metabolic aspect that's leading towards the weight gain. And oftentimes they're cutting out key nutrients. Mm-hmm. And so it's about how to maintain an optimal weight, and having the metabolic processes working well in your body. That's the key.
I love it. Well, we're going to be right back. We're going to take a short break, but we're going to come back. We're going to talk about specifically how to diagnose Hashimoto's and all the things they can do to improve your Hashimoto symptoms. We'll be right back.
An empowered life has no expiration date. We're all created to do incredible things, like conquer summits, catch big waves, and live our passions. As time goes on, our bodies begin to show signs that things just aren't as they used to be. Our energy levels decline, sleep patterns shift, and recovery slows. But our bodies are masterpieces of design, holding the potential to bounce back better than ever. With X39, we achieved something remarkable in the field of wellness and regenerative science that others could not. By utilizing LifeWave's unique patented technology, X39 uses light to elevate GHK-Cu, a copper peptide known to support overall health and wellness. Unlike traditional light therapy, which requires external light sources, X39 uses the body's own infrared light to naturally increase vitality, enhancing the body's flow of natural energy for improvements in strength, stamina, performance, and overall health and well-being, with the simplicity of an affordable, non-invasive, non-transdermal patch. As we age, levels of these life-enhancing elements, which are associated with wellness and longevity, begin to decline. LifeWave invested 10 years into stem cell research, which resulted in over 70 patents. X39 was born to bring to the public a product that could support wellness in an entirely new way, supporting the production of younger, healthier cells with wearable light technology. Becoming a powerhouse is easier than you think. Harness your body's natural potential to maintain youthful energy and vitality, because life comes at you fast, but it doesn't have to pass you by. Live long, live well, live young. Be the light with LifeWave X39. LifeWave.
is like a lightning rod. It's energy that's coming in, tremendous energy that's coming in. It's up to every single one of us of what we're going to do with that energy.
Welcome back to the Welcome back to the Chronic Health Collective show. In the first segment, we talked about Hashimoto's, what that is, and the difference between Hashimoto's and Graves' disease. Right here in this, I would love to dive a little deeper for Hashimoto's because you mentioned there's a specific antibody test to use, and can you tell us a little bit more? What type of antibody test it is. And it's funny because I know when you talk about thyroid health, they always talk about TSH. So if you can just explain a little bit more how the TSH and the antibody test go together to help you diagnose Hashimoto's.
Perfect. Absolutely. So TSH is really sort of the litmus test that most physicians use to determine if there is something wrong with the thyroid, thyroid stimulating hormone. It's an acronym, TSH.
Okay.
And TPO is what you want to look at from an antibody perspective. And there's other aspects that you also want to measure: free T3, free T4. It's an overall panel that people should be getting, because again, it's one thing to know that the thyroid is performing suboptimally or I guess overoptimally.
Correct.
That's one thing. But again, it's really important to know the why. Because if there is the autoimmune component of it, then it really creates a whole opportunity for how to bring it back under control. Because with autoimmunity and the whole inflammatory process, to start addressing those through various means that I know we're going to touch on. That's what really can bring things under control and really give people back their lives, because you don't have to feel bad. You can actually feel really good.
Exactly. So I know when I go to my doctor, they say, "Oh, we're going to pull a thyroid panel." The TPO antibody test is never on that panel.
Never. No, I have a phenomenal doctor. And so, again, doing my research, it was like, okay, I understand that I have this thyroid problem, but I need to know more. Because I'm somebody who, I want to be healthy and I want to enjoy life. And so it was important for me to really get a handle on, okay, so I have this, but is there more to the story? And indeed, by getting the results back of those additional tests, it painted a whole picture of the story was quite deep. Of what was going on. And so then that lets you lay the foundation of going, okay, so if these are the issues, how do I now address them? Because, it's one thing to take a pill that just sort of manages things, but it's not getting at the problem. It's not, and it doesn't necessarily stop the damage. Obviously, if it's regulating levels, that is helping, but it's not getting at the core. And oftentimes people who have one autoimmune condition often have others. So, and it does happen. It's a very common thing that they'll have 2 or 3 autoimmune conditions. And so the point would be is that by the mere fact that you're trying to get the inflammatory aspect of the Hashimoto's under control, you're also positively impacting the other elements that could be going on in your body. And it's just healthy overall. Right? Inflammation, you ideally don't want to have lead a pro-inflammatory life. You don't want to have a pro-inflammatory diet. And for longevity purposes and overall health, it's not ideal. So it's just really good to know that, because then you really can do something about it.
I love it. Just listening back to what you talked about, because you shared so much information. And and I'm hoping that our viewers out there caught some of it, because you mentioned most people have more than one autoimmune condition. And can you explain a little bit how one autoimmune condition, regardless of what it is, and in this case we're talking about Hashimoto's, and you talk a little bit about inflammation. So what happens when you have uncontrolled inflammation that starts with Hashimoto's, and how does that spill over to other health problems that, like you said, can cause more autoimmune conditions?
Absolutely, brilliant point. And with inflammation, in essence, what there's a number of things that cause inflammation. So that would be the first point. So it's not just one source that leads to inflammation, because it can be diet that leads to inflammation. It could be lifestyle factors that lead. So there's a whole bunch of factors at play in terms of what leads to inflammation. So that's the one thing. And then from the perspective of dealing, what does it mean for the body and other, conditions? Because everybody also has weaknesses. So if I have chronic inflammation, my weaknesses in my body might, come out with certain other conditions. For you, Andy, or anybody else, it might lead to other conditions, right? Other people might get arthritis or Raynaud's or all these other types of things. So it's really very bio-individual, right? Everybody and every body, has different ways that they're, that health gets expressed. And so when there's this onslaught of factors that are weakening the body, then it's that place that the next thing comes out.
I hear you. So it's almost like a domino effect, right? Like the Hashimoto's is causing inflammation, which can get to a point, it can trigger other points that your body could be weak upon. And like you said, since everyone's a bio-individual, some people may get arthritis, some people may start getting heart conditions, or in some cases it may even trigger cancer, right?
And some I've read studies, even aspects of dementia and other perspectives of mental health are impacted. So and longevity overall, and so so you've got the inflammation impacting Hashimoto's impacting inflammation, and it's best to get control of it.
Correct. So you mentioned a little bit about diet. What do you think are the must eat anti-inflammatory foods for those that are suffering from Hashimoto's?
Love that. Love that. You and I are both big into nutrition. So that's a fabulous question. And certainly antioxidants, right? You've got the berries, things that are red, blue. You want to have, a lot of phytoproteins, things green, things like that. You want to also get proteins, right? Your body needs solid proteins for keeping strong, things like that. And it's interesting you ask what the body needs, because one of the approaches I take is also what the body does not need.
Correct.
And I think that's also an important focus to have. And that's one of the things I do from the bio-individuality aspect, because what might be harmful to you is not necessarily harmful to somebody else. And so this is you talked a little bit about my personal approach
Correct.
to, to dealing with patients. And that's in fact it, because it's about uncovering what is harming your body, what is not nourishing your body. And certainly you want a nutrient dense diet,
Correct.
but there are things like, for instance, some people should not be having gluten. Right, it exacerbates their condition. Sugar, these are other things that can exacerbate. And so it's really about, finding the magic puzzle pieces for each particular person.
Correct.
I found out that I shouldn't be having eggs. I did an elimination diet. And it was really interesting because when I was reintroducing eggs, I had an amazing negative response to having eggs. And I thought, certainly there's got to be something wrong. Like this, I've done something wrong. I'm reacting to something else. It can't possibly be eggs because I love eggs. So I ate clean. I sort of reversed things out to make sure everything was neutral. And I reintroduced eggs again, exact same response. And eggs, and so Andy, these are things that I ate, I don't know, probably since a young child.
Mm-hmm.
And yet clearly my body wasn't benefiting from the eggs. And I know people are like, well, eggs are amazing and they're so nutrient dense. And you're right, they are. Mm-hmm. They are, but not necessarily for my body. And things change too, because just because you have a sensitivity or allergy to something today does not mean you have it down the road or that you had it previously. So it's just, so it's really important to understand periodically where you're at and give your body what it needs at that time. That's really, really important. The body's dynamic. So what it is today may not be down the road. And so that's why we have to be active, active in our own health and in our own lives.
Correct. I love that. Just rewinding a little bit, because like both me and you, we love nutrition.
We do.
We always talk about antioxidants, phytonutrients, and proteins. But for those that don't quite understand those words, can you give us some examples of foods that are high in antioxidants, that are high in phytonutrients, and that are good protein sources? And then like you said, just because certain things we think may be good may not be good for us. But yeah, if you can give us the musts that you think are really good food sources that are anti-inflammatory, and then like you said, some of the other sources that like eggs, that may be something you'll be introducing in elimination diets.
For sure. And before I get into the list, one of the things that I think is a really important consideration is, and I know this is also something that you and I talk about, but in terms of eating organically.
Yes.
Because that also is something that really impacts bodies. Like glyphosate, we've talked about, that. So it's interesting because, strawberries are great. You should have strawberries, right? They're bright red. They've got, superb things for your body.
Correct.
But if they're not organic, they're on the Dirty Dozen list. And I don't, people may or may not know about the Dirty Dozen list. One of the places to go, which is a great resource, is the EWG.org, which stands for Environmental Working Group. .org. And so they put out a list every year of the food items that in essence are okay to eat that aren't organic, and the ones that are really registering high with levels of pesticides, herbicides, that ideally you'd want to, if you do want to eat those foods, and you probably should because they're really good food. But if you can source, right? If you can source them organically, then go for it. right? And in terms of, which foods, again, anything with a vibrant color. So you've got your blueberries, your strawberries, everything that's bright, red, orange, tomatoes. Although, then there's a whole, okay, now we're getting into complexities because now we're into nightshades.
Correct.
And so this is, again, where the bio-individuality comes into, because a food can be the best nutritional food, but not necessarily for you. And it's not to overcomplicate the matter, because, life is complicated. Let's make this simple, right? Let's make this simple. The whole thing is, if you eat foods and you feel great afterwards, then that's probably your green light. Just keep doing it.
Correct.
Right? And if you eat something and you have indigestion afterwards and you feel bloated and just really bad, then that's also, a time to go, okay, time out. Maybe not this food, or just, eat it at another point. And if you consistently see that each time you eat it, it's not leading to a good experience, then rethink it.
Correct.
Rethink it, and yeah.
That is amazing, because like you said, so many people, I always cringe when I'm going to the supermarket. People are grabbing strawberries and they're grabbing grapes, and in their mind, they're buying the most colorful, right? I love that you brought up about the Dirty Dozen. These grapes and strawberries and blueberries, they are probably the worst that you can eat for your health if it's not organic, because all you are, like you said, is eating chemicals. So the hazards outweigh the benefits in that aspect. And so it really does come down. There is a lot of confusion, and why it's so important to find a health coach that can help you distinguish these, which are the better sources to eat, and more importantly, how it affects how you feel, right? I think that is so important, and you can help people with the elimination diet for that. So I think that's a very important point for everyone to understand. Just because you think it's healthy, it may not be healthy for you.
That's a perfect point, Andy.
Great. Well, Sandra, we'll be right back after this short break.
Hi, I'm Christy Boyd Johnson, and if you are ready to change your child's education out of this model and into this model, then I'm right there with you. Give me a call or email me, and let's chat, and let's do this together, because when we team up, we're unstoppable. Barefoot Learning Club, foundation plus imagination equals genius.
Welcome back to the Chronic Health Collective Show. We have Sandra here, and we're talking about Hashimoto's. More importantly, what Hashimoto's is, how to diagnose it, and things that that she recommends to help you live better with the symptoms for that. But now that we know we got Hashimoto's, for those that have underactive thyroids, how do we live with that? What's the importance? We're coming up to Thanksgiving. What's the importance of living in gratitude and living well when you're diagnosed with Hashimoto's? Is it how is the whole mindset comes around? Because you don't want to be very negative just because you got diagnosed with Hashimoto's. Is it something that we can, how can you be thankful for when you're struggling?
Really, really good point, Andy. And, I come at this from having the gift of time and perspective. Because when I was in the thick of things, right, when I couldn't make it through a day without, laying down, or the exhaustion, I had gratitude, but I just didn't have the perspective, because you never think there's a way out.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's hard to balance, like, will I ever get better, to yes, being grateful and feeling so blessed for, everything that I have. And so that's why I think it's really important for people to know that you do have options, and your body is amazing. It just needs the path. It needs the support. It needs, everything to just take you to the place where you want to be, right? If you're someplace where you don't want to be right now, just know that you do have options. And even if your doctors are telling you, no, you don't, right? Because I was told the same thing. I was told that this will likely get worse. There's not much they can do. And in fact, they were correct. To get worse. And there wasn't, all that much they could do that made a difference. And that's when I decided that didn't work for me. Because that was a lot of years ago, and I couldn't imagine living the rest of my life with what appeared to be so much physical struggle.
Correct.
And so that's what I want people to know, is that you do have options, and your body is amazing. And the fact that you may not feel well right now, I understand it, because I've been there, but know that things can be so very, very different for you. And so with Thanksgiving and everything to be grateful for, it's about reaching a peace, a type of peace that you have in your life, that, you are where you are for whatever reason. And that if you want to be somewhere else, you can also do that too. Correct. Right? You also have those options, and what great things to be thankful for, to know that you yourself can take control of things and have the life that you want to have, and to move away from maybe some things that aren't so good for you right now.
I love that, because I think a lot of people, they get down into that negativity when they're diagnosed with a chronic disease, a chronic condition, an autoimmune condition like Hashimoto's. And what you said was quite enlightening. It's like, it's actually, you should be thankful that you found out you got Hashimoto's, because now you know how to deal with it, right? And I think that's so important, as opposed to the doctor just giving you medication to hide the symptoms. You actually know you have it, and now you can deal with it. And, I think that's something to be thankful for, because, we most of us, we go down the wrong path, is when, like you said, when you're just feeling bad, you get angry, you're not pleasant to be around with, and you're scared. You don't know what's going on. But once you figure out what you have, like you said, you got options now. You can figure out how to deal with the condition. And in most cases, you can probably, I don't want to say cure the condition, but you can probably reverse a lot of the symptoms that you're feeling, even though you are diagnosed with Hashimoto's.
Absolutely, because just think of how it would feel to be asymptomatic, right? Like, to just not have all of those things that are impacting, and that's absolutely beautiful. What you said, and for me, even when I would have, because I did do circles, I had to experiment on myself. I had to do research. I had to figure things out, and some things worked, some things didn't, and again, that's the whole individual part of things. But even then, when I saw a glimpse of the glimmer of, oh my goodness, do I actually feel better? Like, is this better today? When I could see that my body was responding, it just fueled all the more of wanting to go deeper and further with this, because I'm like, if I've suffered for this many years and I can see that my body is actually making attempts, it's responding to some of the things that I'm doing to it, then let's keep going and let's see where this goes. And that's just amazing.
Exactly. And I think that's why it's so important for people that are suffering from these conditions to dig deep a little more for people that are specialists like you that can help them along the way rather than just trying to manage the symptoms, is to figure out what's actually might be the root causes causing these symptoms. So let me ask you this, because like I said, we got Thanksgiving coming around. It's funny because once you hit November, you got Christmas and you got New Year's.
Absolutely.
There's parties. Like, there's going to be parties. There's going to be feasts. There's just going to be a lot of eating. What are some tips that you can give for people for maybe having a thyroid-friendly plate that's not going to blow up the symptoms of their Hashimoto's?
And you're right, because you can have flares, and for people who don't know, a flare is where you're sort of managing things, everything's pretty good, and then you so-called fall off the wagon, whatever that means from a dietary perspective or a lifestyle perspective, and so everything flares back up. And so the good thing is that it's a flare. Right. Correct. So it means that you can go back to feeling great. But that's a good point, because during all the festivities, there's all these amazing foods, amazing feasts that are out there. And so, so one of the things, it depends where you are on your journey, because if you really are more stable, right, if you've managed to really get control of the symptoms, then you can have, the odd cheat, right? You can have the odd cheat and not have it devastate you, right? And you may not even really feel that it was a cheat, and might even get you rethinking, maybe I can really have that huge bowl of chips, or maybe I can do that, which no, you probably shouldn't, but but it does, because your body is stable enough where these things just don't throw you off. If you're earlier on your journey and still very symptomatic, then you might want to think more carefully about falling off. And so from that perspective, when you do know your avoids, right? When you do know your avoids, then just try to focus on what you can have. Because, for instance, turkey for most people is a great protein, and so go for the turkey. Maybe go light on the gravy, because that would have flour in it. If it's, if there's gluten in the specific flour that's been used, then then maybe that's not what you want. But carrots, glazed carrots. I'm going to make myself hungry here, but with ginger carrots, mashed potatoes. Again, you want to be careful, because there's the nightshade aspect of it, and often a lot of cream can be used. Actually, dairy can be another thing that triggers Hashimoto's, or not necessarily triggers, but can exacerbate.
Gotcha.
So again, it's about, whatever you can know beforehand. And the other thing is just enjoy it. You're with your family, you're with your friends, and just enjoy Thanksgiving, and just know that, you're on a path. You're on a path to feel better, and that it's just, potentially getting better for you. So just enjoy the moment.
I love that. And, as you're talking about food, I was just thinking, if you were throwing a party, all right, and obviously you have Hashimoto's, right, but you also want everyone to enjoy your party, what would be some good anti-inflammatory recipe swaps that you can come up with that will still taste good for most people, but that's not going to throw you off the wagon?
Absolutely. Lots of vegetables. So lots of vegetables. So you can have the yams or sweet potatoes. You can have the carrots. You've got Brussels sprouts if you want to do them up with cranberries. Brussels sprouts, cruciferous vegetables. That's a whole other complexity. You keep Andy. Because, and where I'm going with that is that for some cruciferous vegetables, there has been research that indicates that it can have a negative impact on the thyroid. But again, that's just about knowing, right? Because it may impact you, it may not impact you. And so it's really just about finding out. But for putting together a menu, it's as easy as possible, because, you know, even stuffing, use gluten-free bread, right? And you can put your, you know, your onions in it, chestnuts in it, you know, all of these, you know, nuts are great. A great food to have, and Brazil nuts, for instance, have selenium in them, and selenium is actually very good for the thyroid. Oh. And I know, absolutely. So I know it's hard to measure. It's not like, well, how much selenium is in this? You know, that may be difficult. But the point is grab a, you know, small handful and go eat them, and that's great.
I love that, and you know, it's funny because it is important to figure out what you can or cannot eat, and just because you read somewhere, or in general, this works, like you mentioned eggs, you can't eat eggs, and eggs is amazing. I love eggs. I probably eat 2-3 eggs a day, but if your body rejects it, then that's a problem. But you need to find someone that can help you along the way to figure out what you can or cannot eat. Well, you know, final question, because we're revolving, talking about gratitude for the holidays. One last tip that you can give is, how can you focus on gratitude to change your way to approach your health journey?
Love that. You know, one is to have a list of everything that you're grateful for now. Right? Everything that is magical and special in your life. And also to put something together for what you'd like, right? You know, what else would you like to have in your life? And then that keeps you focused and positive, because you're like, okay, I've got so much and I'd love to add, you know, this into my life. And you know, then go for it.
I love that. There's so much to be grateful for. It's just a concentrate moving forward on what you can be grateful for and adding more things you can be grateful for. I love that, how you can influence people around you. So, Sandra, what is the best way for people to get a hold of you? And, like, you know, do you have programs to help people that's having problems with the thyroid?
Absolutely. Thanks, Andy. So by my email or the QR code, absolutely, you know, let's chat and see about, you know, what kind of journey you can start. And in terms of programs, I do have one coming out in the new year. And what it does is it looks at every factor that derails health from a Hashimoto's perspective, and about how to reclaim health. In the way that makes most sense from a bio-individual perspective. And in essence, what it's done is it's taken out my years of going in a circle. Sure. And in essence, it's created a path. It's just a straightforward path for people to follow and to reclaim their health and have support doing so. Because that's the other thing. Because it's an invisible condition. It's not like you look at somebody and go, well, clearly she has Hashimoto's. Right. It's not. So people don't understand, and they may not understand your suffering. And so it really helps to be part of a community, to, you know, for people who do understand, who know exactly what you're going through, and that's as well what I offer, so people feel support and they don't feel alienated or alone.
I love that. Well, her email is right there on the screen. Scan the QR code. It's going to set you up of a free 30-minute consult with Sandra. And we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We got someone that can help guide you. If you even suspect you have a thyroid condition, right, Sandra's there to help you. Absolutely. So join us here every Tuesday at 7 p.m. CST. You can watch past episodes at watch.e360tv.com in the Vitality TV network. And of course, you can watch all current and past episodes on our YouTube channel at Chronic Health Collective. And if you'd like to know more, visit our website, chronichealthcollective.com. You can reach out to all the coaches out there. We're there to help you with anything that you're struggling in life. We'll see you all next time.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Goodbye.